So today we're talking about The Skyhawk. This is a Hong Kong film that was released in 1974. If you know me, you know I have another channel where I cover nothing but Hong Kong cinema, so I'm a really big fan of Hong Kong films. There is an excellent Blu-ray release of this film from Eureka Entertainment. It is Region B. Eureka is a British company, so it's a Region B Blu-ray release. So I think there's also a Hong Kong Blu-ray, I think, which would be Region A, if I'm not mistaken. This film stars Kwan Tak Hing and Sammo Hung and Carter Wong and a bunch of really recognizable faces for people who are fans of old school martial arts films. This is very much an old school martial arts film. It's like an old school kung fu style movie. The director of this film is Cheng Chang Ho, which is worth noting because he directed King Boxer, which is one of my all-time favorite martial arts films, Shaw Brothers films. Shaw Brothers was a studio in Hong Kong that produced a lot, if not probably the majority of the really well-known old-school martial arts films. This film is not a Shaw Brothers movie that I'm talking about now, The Skyhawk, but what I want to talk about is a really, really interesting thing that happens in the final fight scene of this movie that's very strange and really caught me off guard. That I tried to figure out why it happened, and then I did a little digging and I got some potential answers for why it happened. But I want to just look at some screenshots and break it down because it's really kind of startling when it happens. And then I was like, wait, what? Why did this happen? And then I'll kind of walk you through my thought process there. So this is Kwan Tak Hing over here. The guy with the holding the staff, and then Carter Wong is on the opposite side of the screen, and then in the middle, I think that guy's name is Yao Lung. And so these guys are walking towards the confrontation with the villains in the final fight of the film, and you can see they're outside, and there's trees, and there's the sky and everything, and then they're arriving at the location of kind of the final showdown. This movie was shot in Thailand. The locations here are absolutely incredible. There's all this incredible architecture and these old ruins. Like, I mean, look at this ruin here. It's just incredible. Like the texture of the colors of the brick and the grass, and like there's so much depth to this image. And so those are the kind of the main bad guys that you can see in this. So we have our three hero guys right here in what's kind of like the middle ground, and then in the background you have the foreground here, interestingly, is mostly just grass. In the background, you have the villains standing on the ruins of this temple here. And then we have this close-up shot. You can see there's a piece of a ruin over there. There's beautiful blue sky. And it's getting ready to kick off. Again, like the depth and the texture in these images preserved on celluloid, I just think is incredible with these bricks and the grass and the different colors of the bricks and the layers of the architecture. And oh yeah, here come the bad guys. As you can see, we're getting ready to throw down. And what happens here is it breaks off into multiple kind of fights within the main big fight where different characters are fighting each other. So we see Kwan Tak Hing. This is very clearly him. You can see his face, and he's got the pole, and he's fighting with these guys here. And then we cut to Carter Wong, who's doing hand-to-hand combat, like punching, kicking with these guys here. And like, look, there's this incredible building over here in the background with the roof, and then we have all these ruins. And then we cut back to the Kwan Tak Hing fight, and wait a minute, this looks different. This is very clearly on a set in a studio. The color of the bricks is different. The texture is not the same. There's no depth to this image at all. Like there's no depth to the sky. The sky is not the same color. The architecture does not have the same proportions. It's very obviously not the same place. Now, I love this screenshot because it has one of my favorite things ever to see in a movie. Look behind Kwan Tak Hing at the grass. See, there's that tall grass. Look behind that in the sky. There's a door. Like, you can literally just see the door to the studio. Why do I love this so much? I love seeing things in films that show you the human quality in them. The fact that people were in a place at a time making this movie, that these were real people who walked through that door, probably from another room where there was like catering or like some food and some drinks, and they were getting their costumes on and just laughing and chatting, and there were cars driving by, and they went into this space, and then suddenly they were going back in time, to shoot this kung fu movie, and they had to enter into these characters and change the way they were behaving. And I just love seeing the human touch in films. I just think it's so cool. And there are some really great Shaw Brothers films. Again, this is not a Shaw Brothers movie. There are some really great Shaw Brothers films where you can see like seams in the sky or doors or whatever, and you can see that it's very clearly a set. But then we cut back to these two villains, and they're very obviously outside. Like, you can see the depth to the sky. The lighting is so different. That's another thing, too. Like, if you look at the lighting here, you can tell that this is basically like lighting from the top down from a studio ceiling, and maybe there's some lights around them, but you can tell that this is an artificial lighting scheme, and this is very clearly sunlight. But the depth of the sky, those trees behind them, you can tell if you're practiced at these things, if you've seen enough movies, right? And you look at photography or whatever, you can just tell that those trees are legitimately pretty far away from them. So you know that they're in a space with a lot of depth to it, as opposed to this, which is a very shallow space, right? But then we cut again, and this guy's in the in the studio, and you can see another door. Actually, I think here, if you look at Kwon King, and then you go behind him, there's some plants and I think there's a door there as well. And now we have the other bad guy is in this space too, and Carter Wong is in this space. So we're intercutting between something that's very, very obviously artificial and an actual location. And then the scene ends, and we have this denouement with the heroes talking to this is Cora Mew, if I'm not mistaken, and I think she's the niece of the Kwon King character in the film, and they're very clearly outside on location again, right? So I was watching this movie, and this happened, and I'm like, what is going on? This is such a bizarre aesthetic decision. Like, why is this happening? My initial thought was maybe they shot the whole thing in Thailand, and then they got back to Hong Kong and they looked at the footage, and like a bunch of it was totally unusable. So they were like, okay, we have to somehow intercut, like what we have with studio shot footage to match it up to finish the movie, right? I was texting with Frank Jeng about this movie. So if you don't know who Frank Jeng is, he actually has an audio commentary on the Eureka Blu-ray release of this film. Frank Jeng worked at Tai Seng Entertainment for many years back in the day. Tai Seng was like the primary distributor, one of the primary distributors of Hong Kong and martial arts movies in the United States, in like the DVD VHS Laserdisc, and then kind of into the, I think maybe a little bit into the DVD era, but it was mostly, I think, like Laserdisc and VHS, and he worked for that company. He was a translator for the New York Asian Film Festival. He's done a Comic-Con panel about action and martial arts films for 25 years now. So Frank Jeng is very much like, has been in the industry for years, and he's originally from Hong Kong, and then he moved to the Bay Area in the U.S., and he would go to the Chinatown theaters there, and has been a fan of the films for years, and has met all like Sammo Hung and all these people, and so I was texting with Frank, who I met through my Hong Kong channel, about the film, and I mentioned he mentioned the final fight scene. He's like, it's so weird that it cuts from an actual location to a set, and I was like, yeah, like what happened? Did they not get the footage, or was the footage destroyed, or like did it not look good or something? And Frank's like, well, there's actually kind of two theories about this. One, Kwon King, who as you can see is kind of like the lead in the film, and you see him in there and stuff like that. He was a little bit older when they made this film, and if you know anything about Thailand, it's hot as hell at certain times of year. One of the rumors is he apparently was like, I'm not shooting an outdoor fight scene in Thailand in the summer. Like, I'm just not, that, like, it was too hot, and he's like, he had done other fight scenes for the film, and he was taxed and worn out. He's like, I'm just not doing it. The other theory is he actually got sick. So they were able to shoot a little bit of footage in Thailand, and then he got sick, and they had to go back to Hong Kong to finish the film. So it's interesting. Again, you're talking about the human touch on a film, like an actor refusing to do something or getting sick and being unable to do something. It's changing the look of the film. It's just so interesting to me to think about films as this like living, breathing process that is constantly in jeopardy of something falling apart. I just read Oliver Stone's book too, which is called Chasing the Light, which is an incredible book, and it goes from even before his childhood, like he talks about his parents, his grandparents, and then him being born, and up until the release of Platoon and winning Oscars for that film, and he was working on the script for Wall Street at the time and stuff like that. It's such an incredible book, but you get such an amazing insight into like Platoon almost happened so many times, and he had basically given up on it, and then finally someone showed up and was like, here's the money, let's make it. And like Salvador kept falling apart, and like there were all these problems on Scarface, and like he directed 2 movies previous to Salvador that were just like disasters in different ways. It's just so interesting to see how filmmaking really is like this living, breathing thing that is constantly in flux and constantly in danger of just dying and disintegrating at any moment. And so I love seeing these details in movies that give you insights into the behind the scenes process. So my name is Will. I thank you so much as always for watching the channel. I swear I will figure out what is going on with my hair at some point and it won't be such a disaster. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.